The Portal King is working his magic, and we're going to need a bigger boat.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, a former staff member at Ole Miss and a 10-year veteran member of the national media at Yahoo Sports. Today on the show, we talk about Damien Martinez from the Oregon State Beavers and why he would fill a role, not a hole, and why that's important. We look at all the smoke around Tyler Barron potentially transferring to Ole Miss and what that would do to the Ole Miss front seven if that happened. And Henry Parrish Jr. has entered the transfer portal about making a potential return to Ole Miss possible. The transfer portal opened at Ole Miss with the craziness that only the Rebels and Oxford, Mississippi can provide. So that's great. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We're free and available in all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the everydayers who make the show what it is. There's still time to go to the Grove Collective and help out Ole Miss sports moving forward. Go to thegrovecollective.com, thegrovecollective.com, and join today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Before we get started on the show, I do want to say thank you to Dead Soxy for sending these unbelievably cool socks. That's really cool. That's Ole Miss, and you got the beer shower socks. That's pretty handy as well. So that is pretty cool. Thank you very much, Jason, for that. And good people at Dead Soxy, better product. Well, better people. This is just excellent people and excellent products. So thank you very much for that. So the transfer portal officially opened up and all the names are getting into the portal. And there's one that Ole Miss fans probably need to put on their want list above all other players. Now, we're going to talk in the second segment about Tyler Barron and all the smoke there. We're going to talk a little bit about Henry Parrish. But the player that Ole Miss fans probably need to really pay attention to is Damien Martinez. Now, this was his numbers at Oregon State a year ago. 194 carries, 1,185 yards, 9 touchdowns. Brian Smith, the Florida football scout, the Locked On recruiting expert, said that in a one-to-one comparison, he would take Damien Martinez over Quinshon Judkins. So if you want to plus improve the running game, you would get this running back. Now, this guy is up in the air, and everybody in the country is going to want him, okay? It's not a situation to where you can just win out over there. Tennessee's on this kid. Oklahoma's on this kid. Michigan State's on this kid. I think another school or two as well are on this kid. He's a 232-pound running back. He averaged 6 yards a carry, 9 touchdowns in a system that was very zone run specific. It translates very well to what Ole Miss would do. Now, there's a connection there, believe it or not. Jam Griffin is back in whatever that town is in Oregon, that the Oregon State Beavers in. Corvallis, that's the name of it. Talking about that. So there's probably been any questions answered about that. And as Jam Griffin is looking to be the starting running back at Oregon State, he probably wanted to help escort Damien out the door, not speaking disparagingly about Jam Griffin. But when I say this running back, Damien Martinez, would fill a role, not a hole, what I mean is this. Running back is not a dire situation. It's not a hole on the roster. There is not a hole on the roster at this moment. Now, Lane Kiffin is going to do to this running back room, it looks like, what he did to the quarterback room a year ago, but that doesn't mean that there's a hole in the offense right now at running back. Whenever you take Ulysses Bentley, you have a situation where he's an excellent running back, but durability has been a factor. That's a question. That is a reason for you to go out and take carries off of him. He's probably good from 90 to 100 carries a season. You've got Kedrick Reescano, who is probably good for 65 to 95 carries in a season. And between those two backs, you're good for about 150 carries. Logan Diggs has his ACL problem, his ACL issue, which means you can't count on very many carries, if any, this season. And those are the three returning primary running backs for the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss is going to have to add running backs in the transfer portal. We have seen crystal balls. We've seen tweets. We can all assume that Henry Parrish is going to come back to Oxford. You can count on Henry Parrish for about 120 to 125 carries a year. If you add them together, you're at about 275 carries. That still doesn't pertain to a single back workload. There would still be carries that would be necessary, and you would have to extend some of those backs. This running back, Damien Martinez, you can look at his numbers, 194 carries. He's durable. 6.1 yards per carry, 9 touchdowns. He is a thumper. He is somebody that you can put in and game plan to where you can use that style of running back to gain short yardage. He can be a weapon. He's agile enough to be a good running back just on the field. And if you look at his feet are pretty impressive for somebody his size. That's the reason I say that Damien Martinez fills a role as far as the thumper in this offense, a bigger back. When you look at all the running backs that Ole Miss has, either on their roster or potentially on their roster, they're all around 200, 205 pounds, 195 pounds, somewhere in there. They might have different styles, but they're built essentially the same. This running back would be 232 pounds. He'd be a game changer. He would give you a power running threat that linebackers have to pay attention to. And that's important because anybody that has watched my show for any length of time, I've said, and you can probably say this along with me, when Ole Miss's offense is going well, it is torturing linebackers. And the first step in torturing those linebackers is fear of the running game. They need to go forth and fill their gap. That needs to be their primary goal, to where they take at least a false step forward to allow tight ends to get behind. Remember, in this offense, when it is clicking, the linebacker, it's going to attack the run because he has to. That's going to leave openings for the tight ends behind him. That's going to leave opens for the jet sweep out wide. And whenever the linebackers are going about 3 different directions at one time, that is going to be problematic for them. This offense, when it works well, tortures linebackers. Damien Martinez would help torture linebackers. Now, let me break down the run game. Kedrick Reescano, we're not 100% sure what he can provide. We know he's an excellent running back. He has all the skills in the world. This is not downgrading that young man at all, okay? This is all me saying we just don't know. That's it. That's all we're saying about him. But Ulysses Bentley is an outside zone guy. You're not going to run inside zone stuff. You're going to do some pin and pull gap stuff, but mainly you're going to try and hit the edges with this guy because he is a Jerry and Ely plus running back. He is somebody that can hurt you with speed. You saw against LSU a year ago. That's how that opened up. Kedrick Reescano, I'm assuming he is going to be something like that. He has all the talent in the world, but we need to see it. Logan Diggs will not be available until at least probably the playoffs, if we're going to be honest about it. But so we'll see what's up with there. Now, the other thing is Henry Parrish. Henry Parrish had 100 carries for 625 yards and 6 touchdowns at Miami a year ago. We have all seen the stories about Henry Parrish and how he could end up at Ole Miss. We have to wait and see. In a situation like we're going to talk about in the next segment, it's not over until it's over. It's a situation where Henry Parrish needs to get to Oxford. He needs to get enrolled in class and get ready for the summer program. But as the running back, he is familiar with everything that goes on in the Lane Kiffin system. So we talk about mid-year transfers, and when mid-year transfers in football means June, even though that's the end of the school year. It's confusing. I get it. But those guys, there's a higher miss rate on transfers in this April to May transfer window as opposed to the spring window, the winter window. But Henry Parrish having an understanding of where everything is and how to run the offense and having a relationship, honestly, with Kevin Smith and Lane Kiffin, I think that Henry Parrish is going to be able to adapt fairly quickly, and he will become that midline back that we're all hoping he will be. If you add all of these together, okay, if you add that, let's just say that Damien Martinez, you want 150 carries out of him. Henry Parrish, you want 100 carries. Ulysses Bentley, you want 100 carries. Those three guys would get you to about 350 carries. That would get you to what a running back would be. When you add in Kedrick Reescano, that's going to go up a little bit more, and this offense has a chance to be a little bit different. Now, with the wide receivers and the skill positions that this offense has, the run game you might be planning on 350 carries, but they're only going to get 275. But just like the quarterback room a year ago, this would take it to the next level. And I did a video probably 4 days ago that Damien Martinez would make this Ole Miss roster national championship caliber. He is the wish list guy. Anybody that is just wanting a transfer, anybody that wants to play this game, Damien Martinez is the guy that you should be wanting for. Because of what he can bring and what he means to Ole Miss football. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day. There's tons of Tyler Barron smoke yesterday, but as we all good know, it's not over until it's over with that young man. We've all been there, either as a player or the fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure if you or your team can pull out the win. That's when you have to dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in this game, pull off some bank heist, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on the phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb their leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or the Google Play Store. It's Locked On NFL's mock draft on April 17th tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th tonight at 7 Eastern to hear about the local Locked On experts who they would be picking for each and every NFL franchise, all with live reaction from the local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Now, an interesting thing happened yesterday. Brandon Marcello put a tweet out at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. It was something fairly early on, and it listed several offensive linemen and then Tyler Barron as players that were getting in the transfer portal. Brandon Marcello retracted that later on in the day because of bad information, but didn't correct who the bad information was about. He just kind of just dropped it and let it go. So the Tyler Barron stuff, you don't know if it's right. You're not sure if it's wrong, but you take that with all the smoke that we have been receiving, and that created quite a conversation piece in the course of the day. You've got Caleb Sailors here talking about, while we're at it, expect Tyler Barron to transfer out of Louisville and make his way to Ole Miss, where he initially committed following his departure from Tennessee. Michael Bratton says Tyler Barron is on the move again. He left Tennessee for Ole Miss, then Ole Miss for Louisville. His next team will be his fourth since December 8th. And if you Tennessee fan, they're reveling in this. They had a space that hardly anybody went to, by the way. But this is just an example of people talking about that on Twitter. Didn't really necessarily make sense about how many are doing it, but there's just different people and different groups of folks talking about it. Tyler Baring at Ole Miss would make it a ton of sense for Tyler. It would. Now, I don't know that if he's ultimately going to end up there. I've heard some things questioning of whether or not Ole Miss would take him back. I don't know if that's true, but I heard that. I heard that in the situation, Louisville, something is not going right up there. I heard that he has been injured the whole spring and hasn't taken a single rep this season for Louisville. There's so many rumors about this guy. It's absolutely ridiculous. The only thing that we know for sure is that he is at Louisville. People are expecting him almost to get into the transfer portal. And once he gets into the portal, people are going to expect him to end up potentially back at Ole Miss where he committed back December 8th. Does that make sense? Or December 20th or something like that, sometime in December. Tyler Baring is a really, really good football player. And if you put him on this front seven, that gives them so many toys that they can play with defensively. Let me drop some knowledge on you here. All right. This defensive line looks like it's mainly going to be a 4-man front or a 3-4-4-3 hybrid, which essentially is what a jack linebacker is a defensive end that can play with his hands down, but he can also play as a stand-up linebacker as well. It's a way to use the same personnel and have two different defenses. Yeah, there we go. But Princely Umanmielen, one of the top pass rushers in the entire country, okay? We're not even joking about that. He had like 50 pressures a year ago. He can get after you. Jared Ivey does have some experience playing 3 technique, and Walter Nolen and JJ Pegues can alternate, and they're pretty good at getting after the quarterback as well, but they might not even have to do that. Because I foresee a front seven on, let's say, 3rd and 15. Okay, it's 3rd and 15. Where you have on the ends, you have Suntarine Perkins or TJ Dudley and Tyler Baring playing out wide. Then on the inside, you have Jared Ivey and Princely Umanmielen, and you just are making havoc on the offensive line, potentially blitzing a linebacker to where at least one of those guys has to win a one-on-one, and one of them probably will. That is why Tyler Baring being potentially in the transfer portal will be a big thing potentially for Ole Miss. It's not that you need him as a person. It's not that you have a hole. It's not that you honestly are in a situation to where you just need a player to go into this position. No, it's another situation like Damien Martinez where he fills a role, not a hole. And Tyler Baring running in on 3rd down packages to go in there and disrupt the offense is something that I would kind of enjoy seeing. This defense has a chance to be very multiple next year. With, like I said, a 4-man and a 3-man front, they're going to mix it back and forth. You also have Zach Arnett helping out with the linebackers, and he is a linebacker whisperer. And then you have B. Brown on the back end that's designed. Basically, he has made his reputation in college football over being a ball hawk. Everywhere he's been, that secondary has become really good at turning over the offense. When you add that with a pass rush, this defense has a chance to be pretty good. Tyler Baring would increase that. He would make the defense a little bit more dangerous. Now, if you didn't get Tyler Baring, it's not like your defense is hurting for it. This is a luxury player. This is somebody that can make your down and distance defense a little bit better whenever you need to use him, whenever you absolutely have to get after the quarterback. Let's say you're in a position to where you're up 31-17 in the 3rd quarter, and the other team is going to have to start throwing the football regularly. This is a way you can get into that NASCAR package, get after the quarterback and affect the ball, get a turnover, a pick six, and all of a sudden it's 38-17 or 45-17, and the game is over. That is what Tyler Baring could do for this Ole Miss offense. and Ole Miss defense, honestly. So we'll see exactly how that goes. I'm going to pay attention to that and see who all gets in the transfer portal. Louisville is going to counter offer this to death. They're going to do whatever they have to do to keep players out of the portal because they are already dealing with PR problems right now. There's a lot of players that are rumored to be disgruntled, either at handlers, agents, or things like that. Louisville is having to deal with that. Now, do you just kind of cut bait and move on to this next tier and reorganized, or are you going to just kind of fight through it? We'll see exactly how it goes. It's going to be another 14 days of fun in the transfer portal right now. I'm pretty fired up about what can happen there. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first and listen of the day. You know, Ole Miss having 2 Key Lawrences on their roster is kind of the most hilarious thing ever. You know, let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with rising cost of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage. Pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance helps give you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets you apart from great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you find your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. That's the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, including the national shows that cover every single league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Be part of history. Now, the transfer portal window opening up did give us one of the funniest moments that you could have on the opening of a transfer portal window. Needless to say, this window is one of the most anticipated windows there's ever been. When everybody is looking at what's happening, the most scoured over list is other people's going into the transfer portal, and whenever a name hits, it completely blows up instantly. That's just the way this works right now. And Ole Miss did the most hilarious thing they potentially can do. The Rebel Walk says the reports that Ole Miss and OU transfer Key Lawrence was leaving the Rebels and entering the transfer portal are not accurate. Per Ole Miss Athletics, a walk-on player named Keyshawn Lawrence has entered the portal, not Key Lawrence. And if you look at another one, it says Max Olson, this is a national type writer. It says, important clarification, Ole Miss's DB Key Lawrence has not re-entered the transfer portal. Ole Miss walk-on linebacker Keyshawn Lawrence is the one in the portal. Yes, the Rebels had 2 dudes with the same name on their roster. Yeah. What are the odds that you would have 2 Key Lawrences on your roster? Not just having 2 players with the same name. That can be fairly common, actually. But 2 Key Lawrences, to the point where everybody immediately jumped on because they just assumed that there was only one. So they didn't go check and see if there was another one, because that is such a unique name and such a unique nickname that everybody just assumed that it was the Key Lawrence that transferred in from Oklahoma. But that's not the case. It was Keyshawn Lawrence, who was a walk-on linebacker as well. I think this is pretty hilarious. Key Lawrence had some fun with it, like tweeted out it just like the laughing emoji, and then Lane Kiffin put on there happy April 16th Fool's Day. And they did try to have a little bit of a good time with it, because, you know, it's one of those situations. Like this morning, what happened with Louisville and that storm that hit was getting ready to hit Ole Miss as well. Key Lawrence would have made that happen. And Key Lawrence, you know, we were sitting here whenever we saw that Key Lawrence had transferred, every one of us were in our, okay, he obviously got beat out, whatever, name your excuse. It was like excuse Mad Libs for every player that transferred out. We were all doing that. And then a couple of later is like, hey, no, it's not that guy. It was another guy. And they're like, oh no, we're cool, buddy. You know, I'm just kind of glad I didn't fire off my takes like some people did. So I think that's pretty funny. It's one of those situations that's weird. It's one of those situations that, honestly, Ole Miss is one of the only places on the world where stuff like that happens. It's just weird enough that like Ole Miss is the only place that a Key Lawrence duo would exist. And that's interesting. That's interesting, at least to me. So as this week goes on, we're going to talk to Tim Thomas tonight. And he is going to talk about the basketball commitments that came in. There's 2 commitments, and then Dre Davis is visiting as we speak. The small forward out of NIT champion Seton Hall. The 2 commitments averaged like 17 and 19 points a game. And Dre Davis also averaged 15 points a game. So you can see that they're bringing in and paying attention to scoring. So we'll monitor that. You're not going to miss anything about that. Like I said, Tim Thomas is going to come on before he goes off to England for 3 weeks. He's going to come on and talk about Ole Miss basketball and these players. Should be interesting. After the Chris Beard to Arkansas stuff ended, he kind of hit the ground running. And I'm glad that happened, because he needed to. But Ole Miss had to replace Matthew Morrell. They had to replace that scoring, and they needed big men that can score the basketball. I wanted a year ago a Dwayne Curtis, a Raheem Lockhart type player. That's what I wanted. Give me an Anthony Boone. That's what I wanted. Because going down low, it was such a weird thing. I never saw a 7-footer get more shots blocked in my life than I did a year ago. So Chris Beard obviously saw that too, and he is getting front court scoring and a lot of it. And that is something that everybody should be excited about. Anyway, again, thank you to Dead Soxy for the socks. That is pretty awesome. Go to deadsoxy.com and see exactly what they have. They have Ole Miss NIL socks. They have other school socks as well. Good people. Jason Simmons, he's a good person, and they have an excellent quality product. So let's get out of here. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. We have the most perspective surrounding Ole Miss sports, and it is one of the many reasons we are number 1 as an Ole Miss podcast. And thank you for that. For your second listen, go to Locked On Sports Today. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover each and every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the Fire TV channels app. And for those of you on YouTube, we'll send you there right now. Hotty toddy, everyone.